Breaking news. We have urgent reports coming in today. It's Saturday, January 31st, 2026. The intelligence we're looking at confirms that the Russian military has effectively devolved into what agencies are now calling a pharmaco-military ecosystem. We are seeing definitive proof, actual toxicology reports, intercepts that Russian soldiers are being systematically drugged with heavy synthetic stimulants to fight in what can only be described as zombie waves. Now, before we expose the details, just a quick message for our listeners who are standing with Ukraine and Europe. Subscribe to Defense Reports, your go-to source for timely, in-depth military and defense reports. I'm Alex. Join me with Araya in the latest podcast by Defense Report for a sharp, no-nonsense breakdown to the latest in global defense news, military technology, and strategic developments. And today we're going to cover, the shocking reality of SALT, the terrifying concept of zeroing out, and the internal collapse of the Russian army's discipline. We have a massive stack of just released intelligence on the desk today. Investigations from independent outlets like Medusa and Verska combined with global defense analysis. Our mission here is to really uncover what is actually happening in those trenches right now. And I have to warn you, the sources we've gone through, they paint a picture that is, honestly, it's hard to believe until you see the evidence. We're going to talk about a commander named Kama who is living with heated floors while his own men rot in torture pits. We're going to look at zeroing out, which, it sounds like an accounting term, but it's actually military slang for why Russian officers are executing their own men with drones. And we're going to explain the mean Vasily phenomenon, why psychologists are predicting a tidal wave of extreme violence when these soldiers eventually return to Russia.
It is a grim picture, a really grim picture. But it's one you need to understand to grasp the current state of the front lines in 2026. What we're seeing isn't just a breakdown of discipline. This is the industrialization of addiction as tool of warfare.
So let's unpack this pharmaco-military ecosystem. We've always heard stories about vodka in the Russian ranks, right? That's practically a stereotype. But these reports, they're painting a picture of something much darker and frankly much more synthetic. What are they actually taking?
You're right, alcohol is the traditional vice. It's still there, of course. But tactically, alcohol is a massive problem for commanders because it's a depressant. It makes you sloppy, slow, sleepy. If you want a soldier to charge a machine gun nest, alcohol is. It's actually counterproductive. What's happening now is a systemic reliance on hard, synthetic stimulants. The primary substance showing up everywhere is alpha-PVP.
Which is known on the street as SALT, right?
Exactly. SALT, that and methadone. These are synthetic cathinones.
I've read up on SALT briefly. It's nasty stuff. It's often described as a cheaper, dirtier version of, bath salts or meth.
Extremely cheap
Yeah.
and incredibly potent. And here's why it's so relevant to the battlefield.
Yeah.
It creates a state of excited delirium. Ukrainian defenders have been reporting this for months, fighting off what they call zombie waves. They describe Russian soldiers climbing over the corpses of their own comrades, continuing to advance, even after sustaining gunshot wounds that should have incapacitated them instantly.
That's the part that really stuck out to me in the Verska report. The lack of pain response. It sounds absolutely terrifying for the defenders. It's almost like fighting a biological machine, not a human being.
That's precisely the tactical utility for the Russian command. When you're on alpha-PVP, your fear center is effectively shut down. You don't feel pain the same way. We also see widespread use of amphetamines to create what they call synthetic stamina. These drugs keep soldiers awake for multi-day assaults without any sleep. So just imagine a soldier who hasn't slept in 4 days, is hallucinating, feels no pain, and is being ordered to run forward. That's what the Ukrainian defenders are facing.
It reminds me of the stories from the early days of the war with the Wagner group. Back when Prigozhin was still alive, they pioneered those meat assaults.
That's the lineage. This is where it started. Wagner recruited convicts, many with prior substance abuse issues, and used them as biological probes. They would send a wave of men, often drugged into an open field, just to draw fire.
Right, so the professional troops in the back, the A-teams, could see where the muzzle flashes were coming from.
Precisely. It was a cynical trade. Spend a convict's life to reveal a Ukrainian machine gun nest. Now, even though Wagner as an organization has changed, that legacy, it has fully infected the regular army. They're using these men as expendable assets, chemically altered to ignore self-preservation. It's a complete disregard for human life.
It's just horrifying. But here's the logistical question that stumps me. The front lines are a mess. We know supply lines are constantly under attack. Food and ammo barely get through sometimes. So how on earth does a soldier in a muddy trench in the Donbass get his hands on alpha-PVP? Is the command just issuing it like rations?
It's not officially issued like rations, no. That would be too easy to trace back to the Kremlin. It would look terrible internationally.
Yeah.
But it's a mix of tacit approval and a hyper-modern black market. It's surprisingly high-tech. These soldiers are using telegram bots.
Telegram bots in a war zone.
Yes. They order drugs on an app just like you might order a pizza. They pay for it with their combat wages. Connectivity is, ubiquitous now, even at the zero line. Startling terminals captured or smuggled. Local networks, they find a way.
That is just, it's a dystopian. So
Yeah.
you're sitting in a dugout under shelling, scrolling a menu for meth.
Essentially. And once the order is placed, the distribution network kicks in. We're seeing a whole system of dead drops. Couriers leave packages in ruined buildings, under specific piles of rubble, or at coordinate points. You can't just hand it over, obviously.
And who are these couriers? They can't be driving delivery trucks up to the front.
It's a corrupt ecosystem. You have so-called volunteers bringing humanitarian aid from Russia's supposedly socks and canned food, who are hiding drugs inside the packages. You have local residents in the occupied territories acting as mules or guides because the money is incredibly good.
High risk, high reward.
Massive reward. The reports indicate the markup in the trenches is 2.5 to 3 times the street price in Moscow. But the soldiers can afford it. They're receiving high combat wages, and in an environment where your life expectancy is measured in days, maybe weeks, there's no reason to save.
That makes a tragic sort of sense. If you think you're going to die on Tuesday, why save your paycheck on Monday? You spend it to escape reality.
Or to simply stay awake so you don't get killed in your sleep.
Yeah.
And there's also a legal dimension here that's fascinating. The Verska investigation highlighted something they call the leniency paradox.
I saw that. It seems like the Russian legal system is actually facilitating this.
They are. We're seeing Russian military courts letting soldiers off with a slap on the wrist, fines around 20,000 rubles, which is what, maybe 240 US dollars for drug possession. The judges are explicitly citing combat experience as a mitigating factor.
So the state is effectively saying, we know you're an addict, we know you're high, but we need bodies on the line, so pay a fine and go back to the front.
It is state-sanctioned addiction. They need the manpower more than they need the discipline. They're telling these men, you can be an addict as long as you die for us.
Which brings us to the darker side of discipline. Because if you have an army full of armed addicts, how do you control them? This is where we get into this concept of zeroing out. When I first read that in the source material, I honestly thought it was an administrative term, like resetting a payroll or something. But it's infinitely more sinister.
It's military slang for summary execution.
Yeah.
Obnilene. Zeroing. It means killing your own troops. And the reports from Verska and others confirm this isn't just a few rogue officers. It's becoming a standard method of discipline.
And the methods are brutal. We're not just talking about a firing squad at dawn. We're talking about commanders using modern tech against their own people.
That's right. There are documented accounts of snipers, specifically units like those under a commander with a call sign Belai, who are tasked with shooting anyone who retreats during an assault. Barrier troops have existed in Russian history before, sure, but the technology has changed. The drone drops are particularly dystopian.
Wait, explain that. They are using drones on their own men.
Yes. Imagine being wounded in a trench, you look up hoping for a medevac, and you realize the drone hovering over you belongs to your own commander. He's decided you're too injured to be useful, or maybe you retreated when you shouldn't have. So instead of help, he drops a grenade. He zeroes you out.
That's terrifying. It completely breaks the bond of trust that a military unit is supposed to have.
There is no trust. It's a feudal system. And we have a specific case study that really highlights this. The story of Commander Kaima, real name Einar Shariflin. This guy's living situation sounds, well, insane compared to the guys in the pits.
Yeah, I wanted to get to him. The report said he was living in a luxury dugout. What does that even mean?
It means while his men were sleeping in mud, freezing to death, Shariflin had wallpaper, a double bed, and I'm not kidding, padded floors installed in his bunker.
Heated floors on the front line.
Yes, and outside his door. He kept guilty soldiers, those who refused to fight or couldn't pay his extortion fees, in these earthen pits. No food, no water. There is video evidence circulating of him forcing 2 prisoners to fight each other in one of those pits.
Like a gladiator match.
Exactly. He told them the winner, the one who beat the other to death, would get to leave the pit. This is the level of moral decay we're looking at. It's not just about discipline, it's about extortion. A lot of this zeroing out happens because soldiers refuse to give their commanders a cut of their injury payments or combat bonuses.
Shows a mafia racket.
It is. If you don't pay the kickback, you go to the pit. or you get sent on a suicide mission. And if they kill you, they list you as missing in action. That way your family doesn't get the death benefit. It actually incentivizes commanders to disappear their own men.
It really paints a picture of an army that is eating itself alive. But I want to pivot to how this is being portrayed, in the information space. Because while this horror show is happening in the Russian trenches, the Russian propaganda machine is spinning a completely different narrative. This is what you call mirror politics.
It's a classic disinformation tactic. You accuse your enemy of exactly what you are guilty of. Russia has been pushing these wild narratives that Ukraine is using combat mosquitoes, secret biolabs, super soldier serums.
The combat mosquitoes thing always sounded like a bad sci-fi movie plot to me.
It sounds absurd to us, yeah, but it serves a vital purpose for them. By claiming Ukraine has chemically enhanced super soldiers, Russia explains away its own failures. It explains why the Ukrainians fight so fiercely, it denies them their agency, their bravery, and at the same time, it provides cover for Russia's own systemic drug use. If they get caught, they can just say, look, the other side started it.
Okay, but we need to be clear here. And for our listeners, we want to be objective. Is there drug use on the Ukrainian side?
There is substance use, yes. We have reports of alcohol, cannabis, some prescription medication, but the context is fundamentally different. In Ukraine, you are seeing soldiers using substances to cope with extreme trauma and the stress of defending their homeland against an existential threat.
Right, so it's a coping mechanism, not a military strategy.
Exactly. And crucially, it is not doctrine. It's punishable. You lose your combat pay, you get pulled from the line. In the Russian army, the command structure is tacitly encouraging it to enable human wave tactics. One is a soldier trying to numb the pain. The other is a command utilizing drugs as a weapon of aggression.
That distinction is vital. One side fighting for survival, the other being drugged to march into machine gun fire. Now, I want to look forward. It's Jan 31, 2026. This war has been grinding on. Eventually, these Russian soldiers, the ones who survive the meat assaults and avoid being zeroed out, they're going to go home. What happens then?
This is the part that keeps sociologists awake at night. Russian psychologists are already sounding the alarm. They've actually coined a term for it, mean Vasily.
Mean Vasily? That sounds like a character from a children's book, but I'm guessing it's not.
Not at all. It's a folk term for the duality of the veteran. The idea is that a man kind to Vasily goes to war. He was a neighbor, a father, maybe a bit quiet, but the man who comes back is mean Vasily. He's paranoid, violent, and addicted. Estimates suggest 20 to 30% of returning Russian troops have severe PTSD. But the infrastructure to treat them, it simply doesn't exist.
I read in one of the reports that universities are frantically retraining students to be psychologists, but there's a massive cultural mismatch there.
It's a recipe for disaster. You have these 20-year-old female students being rushed through accelerated training to treat hardened ex-convict veterans who have spent years in the trenches on Alpha PvP. These men simply refuse to listen to them. They view the civilian world with contempt. They feel that civilians don't understand the truth of the trenches.
And the state's response? Are they building clinics? Importing specialists?
No. Their response is denial. They are pushing a narrative of post-traumatic growth.
Post-traumatic growth? What does that even mean in this context?
They're telling these broken men that war has made them stronger, like tempered steel. It's a convenient lie to avoid paying for expensive, long-term psychiatric care. But you can't tell a man suffering from stimulant-induced psychosis and shell shock that he's just tempered steel. That's not a treatment plan, it's a dismissal.
So we are looking at a social time bomb.
A massive spike in domestic violence, murder, and what the Labor Ministry is euphemistically calling heavy drinking. We're looking at a crime wave that will destabilize Russian society for a generation. You're taking men who have learned that violence is the only solution, addicting them to synthetic stimulants, and just releasing them back into cities with no support.
It's a tragic irony, isn't it? The chemical tools they're using to try and break Ukraine are ensuring the destruction of their own social fabric.
Exactly. While Ukraine is fighting to secure a future for its people, Russia is chemically hollowing out its own population. They are creating a lost generation, not just dead on the battlefield, but mentally destroyed at home.
That is a heavy thought to end on. The war isn't just destroying cities, it's rewriting the neurology of an entire generation of Russian men. The consequences of that, the violence, the addiction, the mean Vasilis, will be felt long after the shooting stops. You've been listening to Defense Report by Alex and Aria, where we analyze the latest military strategy, global defense, and advanced weaponry. Subscribe to Defense Reports, your go-to source for timely, in-depth military and defense reports. We'll catch you next time.